So the esports scene isn't what it used to be. There was a huge influx of numbers and an online presence during the COVID boom because everyone had to stay inside. And because of that, a lot of orgs and companies decided to kind of invest into this, and they saw like a bunch of potential with numbers and all that stuff, you know, record-breaking numbers everywhere. So it made a lot of sense for companies to start investing a lot of money into it, you know, paying players a lot of money, you know, content creators, all this kind of stuff. But now it's starting to slowly fizzle out, right? And a lot of the companies are trying to kind of cash out or just dissolve entirely. And a great example of this is EG. So let me just swap here. So EG is kind of pulling out. There's a lot of controversy surrounding EG. And even though they just won a VCT, right, EG has let their starting roster explore their options. If they do stay with the org, they would be subjected to a significant pay cut. And the reason for this is because they're trying to pull out like entirely. They can't afford these players, right? They're not making anything in return. Maybe they're not utilizing their advertisements well enough or their players enough. So they are just trying to pull out, and they're just trying to do a significant pay cut to see if the players will stick around. If not, they just dip anyway, right? So it's kind of like a shady thing to do. And then we have here Valorant Intel. Evil Genius's Valorant players were reportedly asked to take a pay cut that was around 50%. In exchange, they would increase their cut for in-game cosmetic sales. So yeah, this is a 50% pay cut is wild. That's I couldn't imagine any player was happy to seeing that, especially after winning VCT, right? You'd think after winning a tournament, being very recognized worldwide, that they would be getting more money, but instead it's the opposite, right? So they obviously aren't going to be too happy about something like this. And here we have an LCS official, and there's an update here, and it says, last week we spoke with all LCS partner teams to convey our commitment to the LoL esports ecosystem in North America and share our plans to reshape the league. In 2024, the LCS will be an 8-team league, as we made the mutual decision with Golden Guardians and Evil Genius to exit them from LCS. So already cutting down to, you know, top 8, Golden Guardians, EG kind of like pulling out, and, you know, it's sad to see, but at the same time, you know, it kind of makes sense. It makes sense because, you know, if the companies aren't profiting, why are they still in it? So they just need a little bit more incentive. Whether my personal opinion, I think that orgs in general are just not utilizing players well enough, right? So it's like it takes more than just having the players on your team practicing and just scrimming, right? And entering tournaments, because there's not much return from that, right? It's like they win a tournament, okay, org makes, you know, not that much money compared to the salary of the players. Advertisers that are coming in and investing in the company, they might not be getting as much, just to, you know, even to fund the salary of the players and stuff. I think what they need is to have social media presence, right? And I've been saying this for a while now, but most of the pro players, they need to have it in the contract where the pro players have to start posting on social media or utilize them for, like, you know, TikToks, YouTube videos, or whatever, to kind of make something in return. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense from a business standpoint for companies to kind of stick around, right? Especially after COVID and all the numbers are kind of dropping, right? So here we also have Evil Geniuses in their statement. Evil Genius will be stepping away from the LCS heading into 2024. We're incredibly grateful to the players, coaches, staff, and fans who have sustained our 4-season tenure in the LCS, who have brought incredible success to the EG name. Just a farewell, right? They're kind of just exiting. They tried it out for a year, right? And now I think now the numbers are kind of down. It kind of just makes sense to just dip and then fall, at least from a business standpoint. It sucks for the players though, right? So this is the part where the players are getting punished for this, and the staff are getting punished for this, right? Because it's like they just joined an org and they put a lot of effort into it. They really wanted something like this to succeed, and then it's just not, and then it kind of falls flat. So it's kind of shitty, right? And we have Jake Lucky here saying Evil Geniuses may be looking to leave esports entirely by the end of this year. Yeah, so just kind of reaffirming this, right? And as a esports in general, right? So they're just pulling out from League of Legends, Valorant, right? So all of these big names. Sources have told SPJ that Peak 6 owners of the Seattle-based unit have been desperately trying to sell off the esports property either in whole or in parts, but have been unsuccessful thus far. Yeah, it's because nobody really wants to gamble and take this kind of leap, because it's like, well, how are they making money, right? Like, how are these orgs making money? And the real answer is that they aren't. They really are not making that much profit because of it. And it kind of just comes down to just not utilizing their talent as much as they could be, and getting as much value from them, which sucks, but it just is what it is. So EG isn't the only team that's kind of pulling out from esports in general. Here we also have some examples with TSM. So TSM is officially leaving LCF after selling the team slot for reportedly 10 million, which I'm actually surprised that, that they're pulling out. So TSM has been in League of Legends for such a long period. And for them to pull out, it's probably because they're also not getting, much profit from it. I'd assume maybe there's just a lot of controversy, surrounding TSM or something, and they're just trying to look to cash out or, fizzle down. I'm not entirely sure. They're also leaving Rainbow Six after winning the tournament, right? So that's crazy to me, right? A lot of these teams that are winning tournaments, they're ending up like pulling out, which I feel like it doesn't make a lot of sense. I feel like after a team wins, especially a big tournament, you should be utilizing those players, right? Like on socials, everywhere. You can probably make a lot of profit off of that, right? From a business standpoint, right? It's like, okay, well, players just won. Why don't we just interview these players? Why don't we put them on TikToks, ask them their opinion about stuff, right? It'll get a lot of views and a lot of traction because, they're winners. So I feel like that there's a lot of kind of disconnect with that, right? With the social presence of these pro players, and there's the team in general, right? So they're just not profiting as much as they could be from the players. Obviously, it's a high demand from players asking them, hey, listen, we're going to need you guys for TikToks and YouTube video on top of everything, including, and it kind of can take away from their practice and all that stuff. But I think that it's just mandatory. It needs to be done because it's just not thriving enough, right? Like you're not getting enough from advertisers for them to not do it. So yeah, NRG departs from Apex as well and blames EA for not supporting esports. So yeah, even NRG, right? So even my org is departing from the Apex scene, and but so some games also can contribute to this too, right? So if there's no support from the game itself for something like this, then it doesn't really make a lot of sense to dump a lot of effort and time and money into a game that isn't really supporting the pro scene or the pro players or anything like that. At least with League of Legends and Valorant and Riot as a whole, they are giving back, right? So they are spending money for the players. They're also chipping in. They're giving them money from like their skins, right? Especially with Valorant, it's like there's the champions bundle, and then the players are getting a cut from that. So I think that's definitely the best approach for something like this. And that's exactly what gaming companies should be doing for big things like this, especially to pull in numbers. It drives incentive for players to want to play. It drives incentive for orgs to want to get in because they can also make a cut out of it. So it's like a benefit, a mutual benefit system for long-term longevity. So yeah, a Valorant esports team has disbanded despite winning crucial tournaments. So this is like the Guard won Valorant's Ascension tournament, earning them a promotion into the International League. The team will not compete in the 2024 season. So the Guard, right? The players, they did it amazing. Like it was like an underdog story at the time, right? Everyone was like hyping up the Guard, everything, and then it kind of just fell flat, right? Like the team just disbanded after winning, and it's kind of crazy to see. Like this is not, if this was like a one-off anomaly or something, it would make a lot of sense, but this is just happening repeatedly, and it kind of sucks to see, right? And then we also have Heroic here exits Rainbow Six Siege. Dear Rainbow Six Siege community, today we announce with a heavy hearts that Heroic will be leaving Rainbow Six after the upcoming stage. This has been a difficult decision which has been made after careful consideration. However, it has been proven difficult to run a healthy team with the current environment. Yeah, and this could just be like, pushback because the game itself and the company itself isn't really supporting this sort of space. So it's really hard to say exactly what's happening, but the biggest thing is that it is happening, right? And then the fact that is like, it's either the orgs themselves aren't making a lot of profit doing this, and that the reason for that, that's probably the case, but the reason for that, it could be one, because the game and the company isn't really supporting that scene, or two, the company itself isn't utilizing their players effectively to kind of make a profit out of that, right? MV Gaming, so this was a very big name in the Counter-Strike scene especially, and I think also in other games as well, maybe Rocket League, I'm not entirely too sure, but I know for sure Counter-Strike was like a big one. They're kind of retiring, rebranding to Optic Gaming, right? So there's just like a lot of changes and a lot of people pulling out, right? It's very sad to see. So while a lot of the teams are pulling out of their respective game and their esport and whatnot, we also have problems with the leagues in general. So not just the individual teams, but Overwatch League is a great example of this. And a big organization like Blizzard, right, is pulling out from competitive play entirely. So this is kind of scary, right? Like the fact that Blizzard is pulling out, it could be a couple things. Maybe Overwatch isn't that fun to watch, or it's not pulling in as many eyes as they thought. And also not pulling in enough investors. So there could be a lot of reasons for that, but it kind of sucks, right? So Overwatch League teams to vote on League's future offered $6 million termination fee. So Overwatch League is looking to pay off the teams just to stop them, from continuing, right? And obviously that they probably had a contract in play for a certain amount of time, and they're like, okay, this is really not profitable. It's better for us to pay up the $6 million up front and cancel the thing than continue this, league, which is kind of crazy. The esports advocate team votes to exit Overwatch League. So I'm assuming it was like a voting system. They voted up, and they came together and they're like, okay, yeah, let's leave, and we're okay with this termination fee, and then they can pay out the players and then the contracts as well too, right? So I guess it was like a mutual agreement between the teams as well. The numbers probably weren't doing that well. The Overwatch League is officially dead. Activision Blizzard is transitioning away from its groundbreaking esports league as teams reportedly vote to withdraw. Announced in 2016, the Overwatch League was a groundbreaking idea modeled after a conventional pro esports league. City-based teams would compete in seasonal home, blah, 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 blah. High startup costs were reported $20 million contributed to a slow start, right? So it's so expensive to run something, and they just weren't getting that return. And because they weren't getting that return, it just doesn't make sense for them to continue that. They're not seeing any growth. They were like, okay, we should terminate this contract, pay out the teams, and pull out. Yeah, and it could have been that they were influenced a lot by the COVID bubble, right? Like just the online presence that really brought a lot of attention to video games in general. So while a lot of individual teams are sort of pulling out from esports and gaming in general, and games and leagues also have been kind of diminishing, we still do see a lot of, new faces, and especially like pro sport players investing their money into teams, into players, into the scene in general. And I think that's very good. It's very healthy for the scene, and it's going to bring in a lot more eyes into it, right? So even still, after this whole COVID bubble thing happened, we're still seeing a lot of really good numbers, right? And that's for example, League of Legends Worlds, right? The World Championship was very hyped. It was amazing. It was a really good story. They did a great job, marketing that. And I think, it just did phenomenal because of that, right? And of course, I think the rivalry between the teams also brought in the sort of viewership, which is great. So League of Legends 2023 World Championship broke records to become the most viewed esport tournament of all time. And, it's amazing. It's amazing seeing that. And it's good seeing like new faces and new people kind of investing into the scene. So Riot claims Valorant Champions 2023 is most watched ever thanks to China. And, that's crazy. That's really, really good for Valorant as a whole. Just branching out globally, I think is so good. And the fact that we started bringing in a lot of, different teams and allowing these other teams from around the world to kind of compete. I've also noticed like at VCT and a lot of these events, they're bringing in a lot of content creators and sort of media from these countries, right? Like a lot of Chinese media brought in, interviewing people, asking about the Chinese teams, and it's great seeing that. So, it's very, very smart. It just kind of expands that sort of outreach in these countries, which can really impact, viewership and the growth of the game too. So very good. CSGO's final major tops 1.5 million peak viewers. So this I wasn't aware of. I didn't even know that it was this high. I knew that CSGO was still obviously a very big game. People still really love watching it. It's very easy to digest, and I think that's what makes CSGO so easily watched. But the 2023 Blast TV Paris Major had recorded a peak viewership of 1.52 million during its final, which that's wild. It's insane. So although the companies are pulling out, the numbers are still doing good. So if the numbers are still doing good, it's like, okay, why are the companies pulling out? And now it's more circling back to the fact that probably they're just not profiting as much as they could be through advertisers. They're not getting enough, or they're not utilizing their players enough, or content creators enough to kind of make something out of that. Because the viewership is there, and if the viewership is there, then surely they can make something like that work. And it could also be that investors are scared to invest in something like this, right? So a lot of them probably have this like old way of thinking, or they're just like, oh, it's video games, you know, I'm not trying to, it's risky, I don't want to do it, right? So until we start seeing a lot more of these advertisers start to jump in, that's when, you know, until then we're gonna see like kind of a slow gradual pace, and it kind of sucks for a lot of these orgs because of that. Messi becomes co-owner of Crew Esports, right? So this was big. This is very big. We love seeing this stuff. Like the fact that is like we're bringing in more eyes. Hey, look, this is a serious thing. We have Messi on. You know, it's great. It's super good, and I love seeing more. I really hope to see more of this in the future as well. We even have David Beckham backed online gaming group Guild Esports, right? So David Beckham backing up shares in an online gaming group co-owned by David Beckham surged after it signed another deal with Sky. So just more of these like big figures are coming into the scene, dipping their toes in the scene, investing into it. So whether they see it as like a monetary gain, or they see it more as like it's like a passion thing, they're just like, oh, I love video games, you know, this is a great thing, I want to dump some of my time and effort into it. But I think it's probably a mix of both. They probably see a lot of potential in something like this, and that's probably why they're doing it, and they're passionate about it. Version 1 Valorant roster moves to Shopify Rebellion ahead of Game Changers Championship. So version 1 has announced that it has parted ways with its Valorant Game Changers roster, as the team will play under Shopify Rebellion brand for the championship tournament. So just different companies that are coming in. There's some swap, you know, the players are still there, which is great, and then they're just bringing in, you know, new eyes, or new orgs are coming in like from all sorts of different, you know, media, and that's, I think, is really good. TSM sells LCS franchise to Shopify Rebellion. Shopify Rebellion are just going all in, right? I've been seeing them a lot in a lot of different esports, so great. It's great seeing at least someone is buying it, and they are coming in. So, you know, there's a lot to it, right? It's like a lot of orgs are pulling out, a lot of new ones are coming in, they're bringing in more different eyes, especially from big, you know, celebrities. A lot of teams are kind of getting, you know, their salary cut in half and chopped down, and it's kind of like it's like the Wild West, right? It's like everything is kind of just sort of happening, and it's kind of chaotic right now. So I'm curious to think what you guys think about all this, and whether you think esports is dying, it's thriving, is it, you know, a dead end for orgs? Are they not utilizing their content creators enough, and not using their team enough? What do you think the issue is, and why do you think orgs are pulling out? So let me know in the comments. And if you guys like these kind of videos, be sure to like and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. It helps out the channel a ton. And hopefully I can do more of these in the future. So yeah, peace. Have a good one.